Okay, so this is the second video I wanted to do on A Course in Miracles. I'm on chapter 1, section 1, which is Principles of Miracles. The first video I did numbers 1 through 10, the first 10 principles, and now I'm going to do 11 through 20. So the first one is prayer is the medium of principles. It's a means of communication of the created with the creator. Through prayer, love is received, and through miracles, love is expressed. So this is just basically saying prayer. I know everybody's trying to meditate right now, getting into meditation, which is great, but I just feel like a lot of people know how to pray, and this is saying that you can trust that medium. You can trust that your prayers are being heard. You can trust that you're communicating with the Creator through your prayers. It says, through prayer, love is received. So you can trust that the Creator is receiving your love through your prayers. And through miracles, love is expressed. And so when you receive those prayers and you get answers to those prayers, that's when your life transforms, and that's when you can express miracles to other people in life, basically. So number 12 says, miracles are thoughts. Thoughts can represent the lower bodily level of experience or the higher spiritual level of experience. One makes the physical and the other creates the spiritual. So basically this is saying that you can choose how to think. You can choose your thoughts. You can choose whether to be in a negative mindset and always see the glass half empty, or you can see the glass half full. And they're breaking it down in terms of seeing through the bodily level of experience. So using your 5 senses to experience life and using your ego to experience life. And that's constant hurt, constant sorrow, constant heartache, right? Or you can see through the spiritual level, see through your spiritual eye and your spiritual senses, and know that everything you're experiencing is not necessarily as it seems. Sometimes you're experiencing, most of the time, you're experiencing things for a reason that's going to play out in your life, that's going to add to your character and what you learn in this lifetime. So that, I feel like that is one of the main points of the book, really, is to learn how to have spiritual sight, right? So to learn how to get out of that bodily level of experience and experience as who you truly are, which is a spiritual being having a human experience. So to stay in that spirituality, stay in that objective point of view and seeing the world as just seeing that things happen for a reason, and that everything that happens is playing into each other, right? It's like the butterfly effect, right? So we're all interconnected, and when things happen that are bad in our life, we have the ability to see the bigger picture. We have the ability to see the silver lining. We have the ability to see the glass as half full rather than glass half empty, right? And when we start doing that, it becomes a habit, and then you start projecting that and giving other people permission to do the same, and giving other people, something that they may not have even realized before. And those are the miracles. Those are the thoughts, right? So it starts by you changing your thoughts. And you change your thoughts, control your actions. You change your actions. You change how you stand in your power, right? You're in control of your own power. You're in control of how you feel and how you experience life. So number 13 says, miracles are both beginnings and endings, and so they alter the temporal order. There are always affirmations of rebirth, which seem to go back but really go forward. They undo the past and the present, and thus release the future, right? So when you think about time, spirit exists out of time. So anything spiritual, any spiritual encounter or anything spiritual is going to happen outside of the bounds of time. And so when miracles happen, when you're offering that type of love to another person, when you're offering love to another person, it says it alters the temporal order. So again, looking at life as learning lessons, right? If we look at life as learning lessons, you just being an act of love or doing an act of love for somebody else can alter the temporal order. Like a lesson that they may have not have learned for lifetimes collapses into this one time where they learn this lesson for themselves because of a miracle that you created in their life, right? And again, miracles are not conscious things, right? That we're all interconnected. So you just acting from a place of love, God is going to direct that miracle to happen in the next person's life. So you might not even know. They might not even know. It might not happen in that moment. It's for your benefit, but it's not for your benefit. You know what I'm saying? So like just being that love creates these miracles and can be like a catalyst for somebody else's growth. Right? So it's really that important. It's really that useful to change your mind. It's really that important to get your mind right? Not only for you, but because you have a greater purpose for other people in the world without even consciously knowing it. It's because you belong to God. And so does everybody else. But once you know that, you're going to give other people permission to know that for themselves as well and in themselves as well. So you focusing on you and getting your mind right and kind of being, it's what we call selfish, but honestly it's what we need in order to heal others, in order to become better collectively. We have to work on ourselves individually. Okay, so 14 it says, miracles bear witness to truth. They are convincing because they arise from conviction. Without conviction, they deteriorate into magic, which is mindless and therefore destructive, or rather the uncreative use of mind. Okay? So it says miracles bear witness to truth, right? So a miracle is an act of love, right? Love is truth. It bears witness to truth. So it comes from your convictions. It comes from your intuition. And instead of being mindlessly guided for some, for your benefit, for a specific outcome. Because it says without conviction, if you're not doing it from a place of love, without that internal conviction, that miracle is going to deteriorate into magic, which is mindless and therefore destructive, or rather the uncreative use of mind. I'm not 100% sure what is meant by magic right here. I'm not 100% sure, but it says, which is mindless and therefore destructive, and rather the uncreative use of mind. So I'm guessing when you're trying to manifest or you're trying to get what you want using things that are not, without being sincere, without coming from a place of love, but rather to get what you want. That's what I'm guessing. If anybody has anything like different that they might think about that, please comment, because we're just sharing ideas, really. Okay, 15, it says, each day should be devoted to miracles. The purpose of time is to enable you to learn how to use time constructively. It is thus a teaching device and a means to an end. Time will cease when it is no longer useful in facilitating learning, right? So again, looking at life as, this is how I look at life. I look at life as like a big classroom, right? And I did not like school like that. I did well, I did all right, but I did not like school like that. But I had to broaden what I knew to be, learning. Like, so when I was able to learn how to learn on my own, that's when it became fun to me. That's when I was able to see my life as a classroom, right? And so when you're So this is a course where you're using this in your everyday life. So you're learning principles in order to use in your everyday life. So in that, a tool that should be used is time, right? It says each day should be devoted to miracles. So every day in this time, in this space-time continuum, it says it should be devoted to miracles. The purpose of time, the tool of time, the purpose of it is to enable you to learn how to use time constructively, right? It is thus a teaching device and a means to an end. Time will cease when it is no longer useful in facilitating learning. So we're supposed to use this time here on earth to come into right thinking, come into our own, come into that unconditional love, the truth of who we really are, and practice that every day. So these are principles that are so dense and so intricate because it's about a whole lifetime. Really, it's like, or however much time it takes you to get these lessons, right? It could be more than one lifetime. It could be multiple lifetimes. It could be less than a lifetime. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like time now is a tool in order to learn these lessons. That's what I'm getting from it. That time is a tool in order to learn these lessons. But the purpose, it's a means to an end. So the purpose is to learn these lessons. The purpose is to get back in touch to who we are as people, which are spiritual beings having a human experience. And we're spiritual beings that are infinite, that have been here, that know more than we think we know, that have more power than we think we have, right? So when we're able to learn that for ourselves and teach others, and they learn that for themselves, and they teach others and they learn that for themselves, again, you're just perpetuating that right spirit. You're perpetuating those high vibrations. You're perpetuating a new way of thinking and a new way of living that has nothing to do with destruction. It has nothing to do with fear. It has nothing to do with having to protect yourself the way we feel like we need to, right? From other people, right? Because we're acting out of love. Right? And I'm not saying, well, I'll continue on that later. Let me go to the next one. Number 16, it says miracles are teaching devices for demonstrating it is as blessed to give as it is to receive. They simultaneously increase the strength of the giver and supply strength to the receiver. Right? So this is about building bonds. Not just building bonds to stay close to people. It's not about that. This is like true love. Like you're giving from a place of true love, and to somebody who doesn't have that in the moment, right? So we're not beings that lack anything, but maybe somebody else lacks a certain perspective. So you being you and acting out of love and being the person you are and doing the things that you do, you might be releasing somebody from a specific mindset, right? So you're giving them a perspective, or however the situation plays out. That miracle is that you're giving something to somebody who's temporarily in a lack mindset. We say temporarily because that is not their true nature. Their true nature is truth, unconditional love. So you're released, but we act in the ego, and we identify with the ego. So when we learn how to not identify with the ego and identify with spirit, and we come from this place of unconditional love, it says miracles are teaching devices for demonstrating that it is as blessed as to give as to receive. So you're blessing somebody, but you're also being blessed by being that blessing. Like, everybody knows what that feels like. When you give, it feels good. You know what I'm saying? When you receive, sometimes it's hard to receive, but when you receive, you feel good. Like, you feel loved. So it's that giving, that exchange of energy, right? Or that exchange of energy. I wouldn't say even, just that exchange of energy, period, is love, is loving, is what we truly are, is our natural state of being, and that's why it feels so good, right? And it says in Miracles 17, miracles transcend the body. They are sudden shifts into invisibility, away from the bodily level. That is why they heal, right? So when you're coming from that place of unconditional love, you're not coming from, again, you're not coming from the ego. You're coming from your higher self, that spiritual thing, that spiritual side of yourself. Or I could say side of yourself, but that's really who you are. You're that spiritual being. So when you identify with that, you transcend the body. You realize that you're a spiritual being having this human experience. So, but they're healing to other people because you're getting them into their right mind to understand that they are also spiritual beings having a human experience. And it has nothing to do with the body. It transcends the body. This body goes through, birth, life, death, goes through the cycle, and we ultimately see an end. But there's no end for us. We the truth of who we really are transcends the body. So when we're bringing people back to that mind and back to that knowing, it's healing. It's healing because beyond the body we are perfect beings, right? We are perfection, right? We are not lacking anything. So when that person identifies in themselves that they're not lacking anything, then that's healing to them, right? We're already healing in ourselves. We're not lacking anything. So ultimately, these miracles, that's what they're doing little by little. It's healing, right? It's bringing us back to our own power and understanding that we are not lacking, that we are beings of God, that we are infinitely powerful beings. 18 says, a miracle is a service. It is the maximal service you can render to another. It is a way of loving your neighbor as yourself. You recognize your own and your neighbor's worth simultaneously. Yep. So it's the same thing. Same thing. You recognize your own wealth and your neighbor's worth simultaneously. And it says it's a maximal service you can render to another. So an act of love is a maximal service that you can render to another. A miracle is a maximal service you can render to another. Being there for a person. Anyway, I feel like before I was trying to pinpoint, well, what is it? What is a miracle? But it keeps saying it in different ways, right? It says, but what stuck out to me the most is it's the act of love. It's coming from your convictions. You're coming from a place of your convictions in terms of how you act towards others and how you act towards yourself. So as you continue to give that compassion, that love to yourself, you're able to give that out to others. If that makes sense. It said, a miracle is a service. So it's an act of love. It's a service. It's the maximal service you can render to another. It's a way of loving your neighbor as yourself. You recognize your own and your neighbor's worth simultaneously. Yeah. So you break away from certain mindsets that might have bound you before, that allowed you to see that person as different, less or more, or different than yourself. But it says a miracle is you recognize your own and your neighbor's worth simultaneously. You recognize who y'all truly are simultaneously. Okay, 19, it says, miracles make minds one in God. They depend on cooperation because the sonship is the sum of all that God created. Miracles therefore reflect the laws of eternity, not of time. I'm going to read that again. Miracles make minds one in God. They depend on cooperation because the sonship is the sum of all that God created. Miracles therefore reflect the laws of eternity and not of time. So again, I feel like we've been saying this before. Miracles are outside of time because it deals with the laws of eternity. It deals with God. It says they depend on the cooperation because the sonship is the sum of all that God created. So miracles depend on the cooperation. They talk about the sonship. So the sonship is the sum of all that God created. So people, nature, just everything that God created, everything that is life, right? Not the things that we created, not the mindsets that we created. Everything that God created is what makes everything that God created can be made one again. And you know what I'm saying? So it says, miracles make minds one in God. So when you're offering a miracle to somebody, when you say you're allowing them to see themselves, to see that we're all sons of God. So they use it, so the terminology in the book is like kind of like that of the Bible. So everything is like male-centered, like, but you just use it to like, or read it how it pertains to you. But they talk about the sonship. So they talk about everybody, all of God's creation is coming back to knowing that they are one in God's creation. So when you offer a miracle to somebody, you're coming back to that oneness of mind, that oneness of existence. Like our existence is from the same God. And that's what you're reminding each other. You're coming back to that. You're coming back to your power, and they're coming back to their power through this miracle. Okay? So it says, miracles therefore reflect the laws of eternity, not of time. So it has nothing to do with this physical time here. Everything that you see going on in this physical plane through the ego might say that y'all are different. You know what I'm saying? That every, y'all are a different class, you're a different race, you come from different. Everything might say that you're different, but when you connect with somebody through a miracle, when you're transcending that, it has nothing to do with time. It has nothing to do with this physical existence. It's outside of that. It's the things that are unseen, right? So that's where the miracle comes from. And in 20, it says, miracles reawaken the awareness that the spirit, not the body, is the altar of truth. This is the recognition that leads to the healing power of the miracle. And I feel like that sums it up. Miracles reawaken the awareness that the spirit, not the body, is the altar of truth. This is the recognition that leads to the healing power of the miracle. Right? So when you're talking about the altar of truth, and when it even pertains to getting out of fear, it's like you're going back to, you are a spiritual being having a human experience. So you're not lacking. The power is in you. Even when it comes to how you think, like, so think about now and everything going on with this COVID-19, like, the power of repetition, everything that's going on the TV that's just telling us, they just keep feeding us this virus. It's just like, I feel like there's more to it. Like they're trying to make you believe something. So I don't run away from it, but I kind of like just don't listen. And I find myself I don't listen, and then I dive into what I know to be true, right? And then you find yourself like not believing it. It's like the repetition and us consuming everything in the media is allowing us to believe certain things. But when you really dive into the awareness of you are spirit, right? You are spirit. You are a part of spirit. And that's the only thing that's controlling you. That's the only thing that you can lean on. You're like, ain't nothing greater than that. So you're healthy. Or I'm healthy in this moment. And you just go back to that gratitude of, I'm glad I don't have to lean on the world and the chaos that's going on in the world for my sanity. Like there's a spirit to lean on. There's that knowing that you're outside of it all, right? Because you are an eternal being, and everything that we've been taught to believe and how to believe are constructs, right? So why do we keep wanting to live in fear and live in misery? We're so used to it. We're so used to going back to it. We're so used to believing it. And it's comfortable for us that we refuse to do the work that is going to take to change our minds about this stuff, to make us see differently. But this is what we should be doing. We should be doing this work. Like, I mean, if you want to, it ain't like I ain't trying to force anybody to do this, but it's just like if you want to live happier, there's some things you're going to have to change. There's some mindsets you're going to have to change. There's some ways of living that you're going to have to change that's going to make you happier, because ultimately you're in charge of your happiness, right? You're in charge of your happiness, period. So like, I like this book. I also like another book called The 4 Agreements. And The 4 Agreements, the one that stuck out to me the most, it says, don't take anything personally. Don't take anything personally. That's one of the 4 agreements that just, the other ones I like. It says, don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions. Always do your best and be impeccable with your words, right? But the one that says, don't take anything personally, I feel like that pertains to A Course in Miracles. Like, if you have spiritual sight and you are living from a place of truth and a place of love, and you want to be happy and you don't want to hurt, you're gonna do what it takes to live in that manner. Like, you're not gonna want to take things personally because you're not gonna want to hurt. Like, I know there were situations in my life in particular, like, that initially it hurt. It really hurt. Like, because, say, in particular, like, I like somebody, but they don't feel exactly the same about me. But, like, initially, hell yeah, that hurt. But if you keep going and you keep practicing every day and you tell yourself, I am in control of my happiness, like, you don't have to stay in that misery, right? You don't have to take whether it was a disconnect, whether it was not the right time, whether it was something that they were going through, it doesn't matter. You do not have to take those things personally. And therefore that's when you're coming from a place of unconditional love. Whether you in contact with that person, not in contact with that person, it's like, I could love this person regardless because I'm not about to take this personally. And you can either wait for them to come back or you could let them go in peace and love, like, because you're coming from a higher place. You're learning, you're teaching yourself how to love from a higher place. So in that, it's automatic forgiveness because it's not you never, because you started off in that in that space, but you're not going to hold nothing against that person because ultimately you love them and you want to continue loving them and living from a place of peace and light and joy. And if they do come back to you, like, you want to offer them that and never hold anything and just like start fresh, right? So like this whole Course in Miracles is like how is finding peace in your life by seeing people, seeing situations in your life, seeing yourself, and just having more compassion and seeing all those things as blameless, rather than something or a situation that just attacked you. Like, it ain't that, because everybody's going through, right? And shit happens, like, that's how it is. Like, so it's just like If you want to be happy, tap into that. Be conscious of what is bringing you happiness, and be conscious of what is not bringing you happiness, because maybe for that moment you might just have to detach from a specific mindset that is not bringing you happiness, right? Maybe it's not even a person. Maybe it's something that you're doing with yourself, a specific mindset that you carry that's holding you back, that's blocking you from getting what you deserve or what you know should be happening in your life, right? It's being aware. And so in that awareness, you have the ability to change, right? And change in the way you want to change.